Shalom from Zion. Welcome to the video update number 1 of the International Prayer Conference in Jerusalem. It's January 2020, and you are looking from the Dan Jerusalem Hotel over a very stormy Zion, a stormy Jerusalem. We've had rain. We're possibly having a little bit of snow, and I'm not sure if you could see it, but you're looking south, and the Dome of the Rock is somewhere in the distance there. That's all right. If you can't see it, it's no big deal. My name is Chuck Cohen. I am the Director of Intercessors for Israel, and Lord willing, we'll be bringing you video updates for most of the days. I say Lord willing because most of you who've kept up with us know that our precious brother Eliyahu ben Chaim graduated, went home to be with the Lord this past June, and so the weight of most of the conference has fallen on me. And whether I can continue to do the video updates as well as overseeing everything else, the only way I'm going to do it is by the grace of God. Anyway, but here we are. Last night we began our conference, and I was ministering. The message I ministered was called For Such a Time Like This, talking about the fact that each and every one of us is called into the kingdom for just this time. And the main reason that those of us in this conference were called into this kingdom was for intercession. You can listen to the rest of the message because that message will have been updated on our website, and you can listen to it online or download it for free just anytime you want after you hear this video update. This morning, as we got started, Jeremy Smith, who's going to be giving us morning devotionals, is starting a devotional on the fact that we are a kingdom of priests. And he talked about, this is out of 1 Peter 2:9, and he talked about the fact that we are priests, that we are a chosen generation, we are priests to offer up to God sacrifices, we have been set apart, we are sgula, that's the Hebrew word for a peculiar, treasured people, a set apart people, and our goal is to proclaim the praises of God who pulled us out of darkness into his marvelous light. And this is applied to the church from Leviticus 19 first, where it's applied to the nation of Israel. I think most of you listening to this know that we are in no way, shape, or form into replacement theology. What this basically means is that as a born-again believer, you've been grafted into Israel's olive tree. You've partaken now of that priesthood as a non-Jewish or a Jewish believer. This doesn't make you Jewish. It just gives you that standing before God that the nation of Israel had in the Old Testament when they were his people, still are his people. This morning then we went on, and our brother Devin Mitchell gave the prayer guidelines, and I do believe that the guidelines for corporate prayer are on our website. You can read them and see what we mean when we talk about corporate prayer. It's very different from the regular prayer that most people do in churches. And then we had our brother Claude Ezagori, who's a pastor from Tiberias area, come and start giving us the areas we wanted to pray in. The first one was security over Jerusalem. It's a very interesting time because while here we are, 100 or so intercessors, 120 intercessors from the nations and from Israel, we have better than 40 leaders from all around the world, people like Russian President Vladimir Putin, the Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence, and as the British believers always remind me, Prince Charles and others, the French President, the German President, and others who are coming here to share with President Reuven Rivlin of Israel on a seminar on anti-Semitism. It is also the 75th anniversary, sometime later this week, of the liberation of Auschwitz, an International Holocaust Day. And so we prayed to begin with for the security of this city, because this is a mess. The traffic is a mess. There's been special security arrangements that have been made. Can you imagine planning for this? And not only that, but the Palestinians have already put out an op-ed in one of their newspapers about all we have to do to stop this is assassinate one of these leaders. So security is really a high alert. Traffic is a mess. Plus, we may even be getting snow here tomorrow. It's going to be so much fun. I'm glad I'm stuck in a hotel, to be honest with you. We prayed that God would use the weather to hold the terrorists at bay. That's out of the chapter in Job where he says, I've had the snow and hail for a day of battle and war. We prayed that the Lord who watches over Israel and never slumbers nor sleeps would fill in the gaps in case there's anything the security people missed, and that we would open up the eyes of the security people, that the people who are organizing this would be able to have clear communication with the people on the ground and will be able to know when there is a danger and when there is not. We did specifically pray against any assassinations, and we asked that the Lord would protect us from all cyber attacks as well. The Lord in Job 12, verse 22, talks about there's nothing hidden from his sight. So if anything was hidden, we asked him to reveal that also. Then we went on to pray for the burden. The next burden was that the Lord would speak to these world leaders while they're in his city, the city of the great king. We had a number of people pray out of Genesis 12:3, that I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you, that their leaders, because some of these leaders are coming from nations who the delegates here are from, that their leaders would go home with a blessing for Israel so that their nation can be blessed as well. We also had a number of people pray out of Psalm 2, especially 10 and 11, where it says, you kings of the earth, beware, take heed, serve the Lord with fear, rejoice with trembling, kiss the Son lest he be angry and you perish in the way. Blessed are all they who put their hope in him. And a number of people also prayed out of one of our favorite scriptures when we're praying into government, which is Proverbs 21:1. The heart of the king is in the hands of the Lord, and he turns it whatever way he wants. We prayed for our national leaders to have their hearts turned here in the city of the great king. Then as we approached the second session, we talked about the biggest security threat Israel still has, which is Iran and all of its outreaches, whether it is in Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Yemen, Gaza. But we had to start by thanking God for all the prayers he's answered concerning Iran over the years. We've asked God to shake Iran, and Iran has been shaken physically with earthquakes, physically with droughts and floods. They've been shaken socially with riots in the streets. This is the third time there's been riots in less than a decade, and this time the riots are much more serious than before. Also having the backing of the U.S. president, where before they didn't. We've prayed for economic shaking, where their economy is in disaster. We've also prayed for spiritual shaking, and that's the thing that brings us the most joy, because I think most of you who follow us know that the church in Iran is one of the fastest growing churches on the face of the earth. And so we prayed for the church, we prayed for the shaking to continue, and then we also prayed for God to give Israel wisdom, especially the IDF at this time during our transitional government, because we're having another election March 2nd, wisdom on how to prepare for anything Iran may try. You see, Iran is being pushed like a beast into a corner. It's either going to lay down and give up, or it's going to lash out. I have a feeling they're going to lash out, and Israel needs to be ready. So we prayed that our birth nations, and again, we have people here from over 20 or 30 different nations, would be able to know what their relationship with this wicked regime should be. And not just go along for investment purposes, but go along recognizing that if we're going to celebrate Holocaust, or they're going to remember Holocaust Memorial Day, Iran has already said they want to annihilate the state of Israel. And so therefore they should be taking a stand against that. We prayed for the IDF to have great intelligence, that they would know what's happening in the king's bedroom, like Elisha did, that they would be able to listen in on what the plans are, that our spy satellites would be focused in just the right places, that our spies and our collaborators would know exactly what needs to happen and what information is true from disinformation. And then we went on to pray for the current transitional government to have its act together security-wise. There's a lot lacking in Israel because of the transitional government, but thank God, Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister, Naftali Bennett, the defense minister, and Avi Kochavi, our Ramat Kal, our commander-in-chief, have been working together, and security-wise, there doesn't seem to be any lack. We're still attacking, we're still preempting, we're still letting people be aware of the dangers, and even letting Iran know we know where they've got all their missiles. So that's been wonderful. And then we prayed into the transitional government for a while, and then finally we ended up praying into the government that is to come. And we asked God to give us a government that would recognize that security has got to be the top priority. Why do we say that? No matter what else we pray for Israel, if there's no security, nothing else matters. If we have no security, it doesn't matter if we have a good economy. We're going to be dead. If we have no security, why should we be bringing people back home through Aliyah? They're going to be killed. If we don't have security, it doesn't matter if there's not enough houses. Enough people will be killed, we'll have a plethora of houses. You understand why security, which is any government's first priority for its nation, is a priority for us. And so we were praying into that. And finally, we prayed for the Israeli society itself, especially the young people, to catch hold of a vision of serving in the army, serving this nation. It doesn't have to be combat, but serving the army and serving this nation like their fathers and their grandfathers did. We've been brought back to this land. God said he's making us an exceedingly great army, Ezekiel 37:10, which he has done. He said he will be with us. He will fight with us, but he won't fight for us. That's what we see in the prophetic scriptures. And finally, we ended up by praying for the local body, the body of Messiah in Israel, which is growing and thriving. But sometimes the elders and the people have so many issues they have to deal with that they never really do pray for those in a government. 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 1, where Paul says, first of all, prays for those in authority. And often the body here doesn't do that, let alone pray for security unless there's a war. So that's what we covered this first period, this first session morning and last night. And hopefully we'll be back with you tomorrow afternoon as well, giving you an update of what's happened since then. Lord, bless you from Zion. Thank you for joining us. Lehitraot.